Outer Rim News with Austin Gordy, Ray Snedeker, and Ashley Wilbanks.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Hi. Welcome to the show. Things are happening. The show must go on. I guess it's just me today. So today we're going to talk about Power Rangers and why they're not as good as Super Sentai. So
okay, whoa. This is a Star Wars show, not the Power Rangers podcast hour.
No. This is definitely called the Super Sentai hour. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to start with the 16th series about the Zero Rangers, which is actually what the our first Mighty Morphin Power Rangers uses the stock footage for. And if I'm being honest, I believe the Zero Rangers are much better than the regular Power Rangers. They take a mystical tone. Now, to be honest, I actually have been watching it. It's very bizarre. It's weird.
Really?
Yeah. There's an app, Shout TV. They have a ton of old stuff like that, and they like all these old Japanese shows with subtitles, like Kamen Rider, all this ton of Super Sentai stuff. Yeah, it is bizarre to go back and look, seeing what it was based on, what this footage that they used. Because what they do is anytime that the actors would morph, they would just use the stock footage. So that's why it always looked like there was a Japanese background every time they were fighting.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's really weird.
I've always wanted to go back through it. I've always wanted to go through the series. I remember when Shout acquired the rights to all that. So I know that they got it on the app and they've been pushing it. Even a friend of mine, it popped up on their app and I was like, yeah, I got to check it out.
I mean, yeah, Rita is a character named Bandora. She's a witch and she's a minion for Satan, great Satan himself.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's probably like
Satan doesn't appear in the show. He's a big giant head in the sky. He actually appears in the regular Mighty Morphin Power Ranger show as a character called Lokar. But they couldn't do that because they didn't want to scare the kids away by actually having Lucifer, Satan appear in the show. They didn't want to freak him out.
Yeah. Have Austin St. John beat him up.
So I'm so excited to turn this into a Power Ranger show. So this is a fun way to start the episode.
It's and it's sad you had to do that after the Red Ranger goes to jail. And I'm like, hey, I haven't done that before then.
He allegedly committed that high crime. He's still doing YouTube stuff, so he might have worked something out. Ooh, I broke the table. He's after me. Austin St. John is trying to kill me.
After Austin spent all that money to autograph it.
I know, man. After all that money I gave you, Austin.
Writing bad checks.
Okay, well, welcome to the Outer Rim News podcast where we talk about Power Rangers and Super Sentai.
The Power News podcast.
Yeah, the Power News podcast. So,
do you want to introduce this, or do you want?
So tonight we're just talking about our favorite Star Wars novels. We're going to pick one from pre-Disney and one post-Disney. So I guess we can just start going around the table here, and we'll just pick. Let's start with pre-Disney stuff first, and we'll just go around the table. Kind of say why you like the book, and maybe we can ask some questions, go back and forth a little bit.
And probably just a quick one or two sentence
about what
the premise is of the book, if it's not a overly familiar one.
Okay, sounds good. Who wants to go first? We're going alphabetically.
I'll go first, I guess.
Okay, Ray goes first.
I'll say my library of Star Wars completed novels is probably nowhere near as many as you guys. I've read a good bit of them, but I don't think I've read as many. So we're doing pre-Disney, you said?
Pre-Disney first.
I would say my pre-Disney most memorable one, and I'm going to try to go off one that's not a novelization. So I'm going to say Shatterpoint by Matt Stover.
Mm-hmm.
Good choice.
And the basic plot is it's a story it's completely centered around Mace Windu. Well, there's one other character, I forgot his name, but Mace is on a mission during the Clone Wars to Harun Kal, which is his home world. and he's dealing with, I think, a rebellion is going on down there with that's people that have allied with the separatists. And he also hears that I think there's a rumor that his former apprentice Depa Balaba is down there as well with them.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going down there to see what happened and what happened to her and figure that out.
Okay.
But that was, Austin, I think, introduced this book to me, and that book introduced me to Matt Stover, who's probably still one of my all-time favorite Star Wars authors.
He did Revenge of the Sith
Such a small
novelization.
amount of Star Wars books.
He did the Revenge of the Sith novelization.
Yeah. That was one of the big ones he did, because I think that's one of the more memorable of all the novelizations thus far.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because he likes to use very symbolic storytelling, and it really comes through in Revenge of the Sith. But also, one thing I look that he deals with in Shatterpoint is Mace Windu as a very haunted person by what happened to him, by what happened on Geonosis.
Mm-hmm.
Because you find out at the beginning, he there was a plan to just bomb the separatists from orbit, just bomb the arena.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that.
That was on the table, and they were just going to do that. And he convinced them to let them go down and try to save Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme. And in doing so, they saved them, but a lot of Jedi died, and a lot of people he knew died. And a whole war started because Dooku was able to escape. So he carries a lot of that guilt that he thinks that if he had to just let them die, the Clone War, this whole war wouldn't have started.
Or
and
if I just remember it was like also if he had struck down Dooku, because remember he had the option.
Oh, yeah.
Right there. He had he had the blade at his neck, but he was trying to be a Jedi and arrest him,
trying to talk him down.
But he was like, I saw him as the Shatterpoint, and I should have just killed him then, which is actually pretty interesting because that ties into the Revenge of the Sith stuff because of how he saw Palpatine in that moment as the Shatterpoint. And instead of being the Jedi that would arrest him, it was like, I'm just going to kill this man. Like, this is what will solve everything.
Yeah.
And Anakin stopped
obviously
that.
He learned from the previous mishap. Not taking advantage of Count Dooku, killing Count Dooku.
And that's another thing that it brings. I don't know if they've really talked about it in New Disney canon much, but that's a unique ability that's revealed. The title is a unique ability that Mace Windu has. Is he can, some Jedi have similar like unique traits. Like Cal Kestis has like the psychometry. I think Quinlan Voss has it too, where you can touch something, you can kind of see the past around the object. You can kind of, so he has what's called a Shatterpoint ability. He can see people in situations and basically see the Shatterpoint, the weak point in a situation. To see, almost like he can see the hand, like almost like he can see threads of fate, and what ifs, and he can see the center and what can break and stop something. So there was even a part in, like, from his point of view in Revenge of the Sith where he sees Obi-Wan, Anakin, and it was when they landed on Coruscant at the beginning, Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Palpatine. And he kind of sees them through the Force almost. And Anakin, he kind of sees him as a storm, but for some reason he doesn't see anything with Palpatine. He was very confused by it. He almost sees like a void. He couldn't really see any kind of weakness. It wasn't until later on, I think, that he actually sees him for what he is.
That's the dark side of the Force, Ray, clouding everything.
And then there's also the PTSD aspect of it, because of him killing Jango Fett, and he kind of has to spend a lot of time in this war around men that have the face of the man that he beheaded. And there's a really, really kind of Joseph Campbell-esque like moment toward the end of the story where he's really heavily injured and he's basically having to crawl through just a pile of dead clone troopers, and all of them have their masks off. So he's crawling through these bodies of Jango Fett's face, just looking dead up into the sky at him. And it's a really visceral moment. I remember just like that one really stuck with me. But yeah, that I'll say that's one of my favorite ones. That's one book that's kind of always stuck with me.
Okay.
I always remembered. I was going to say I remember because I agree with Ray. That is a great like pre-canon novel. It was Matthew Stover went on to do the Revenge of the Sith novel, and I think everybody is. It's pretty unanimous. It's a highly regarded movie tie-in, like a Star Wars movie tie-in.
Yeah.
And then I just want to point out with Shatterpoint, not only did it have a lot of like character development and that focus on the, like the Shatterpoint ability and how that affects Mace's, his whole character and his whole being
Psyche, yeah.
and his psyche. But you also, I mean, the book is so great at giving you that, but it also gives you a ton of action.
Yeah.
I would say it's almost like an action. It's still like a suspense, like action suspense, maybe the first quarter of the book. But wouldn't you agree, Ray? Probably like especially by the halfway point, the rest of the book is just straight up gnarly war.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
It's just nothing but battle, just Mace unleashed on this planet, trying to just get everything under control. And I would say that it's an example of how in the pre-canon era they really went for it in these novels, man. They didn't shy away from going like, well, we're just going to have a bottle episode book and everybody's in one room and we learn their characters. No, this one's all out. Just it gives you the clone, because it's supposed to be a Clone Wars novel, but it also is like one of the deepest books you'd ever read in the Star Wars timeline. I mean, it was dark. It was super dark.
Like I say, like kind of Joseph Campbell-esque how it would get,
with Depa too, like involving somebody that you were kind of familiar with who had been there through the prequel era. Like I remembered her from episode 1. Remember she was in there at the parade at the end, and it's like she had always been there, and then she falls. She slips. Like what? And then it becomes this huge catalyst for something. Like, man, that's pretty crazy.
And I never caught it. And just, me thinking of it, with Joseph Campbell, I never thought about how similar kind of some of the base beats of it are kind of like, are similar to Apocalypse Now, on a mission to find a lost, a missing general who suddenly kind of who went AWOL, like Depa Billaba went, he has to go find out what happened to her. I never caught that. But so that's mine. I could go all day. Like there was other ones that are great too. Dark Rendezvous was another great one to me. But so Shatterpoint's mine.
Okay, so, Austin.
Now, so we're only focusing on the okay.
Pre-Disney.
So I wouldn't say it's one book. I have to grab the whole thing. But and I've mentioned this in other books. Look, it's easy. It's easy. The Jedi Academy trilogy. Hands down has to be my favorite of the pre-canon era. I mean, it's
your delivery of that word when you just said the Jedi Academy trilogy. I thought you were literally going to try to start selling it to somebody.
Hey guys,
$99. I got it right here. The whole set. You can get all 3 books.
$10. $10. No, but I mean, it really was. It was a great, complete story. I read a lot of the like young adult and stuff. Books coming up of the Star Wars series. But this was a great intro to the adult novels for me. And I don't know, I just really dug the adventurous. And plus it felt like it was a grand step forward from the, from the Return of the Jedi era. It's like, here we go. We're going to push forward with the Jedi's order. Luke stands up before the New Republic and he's like, I want to propose this. And it's just really cool because it's at the time you don't know, but it becomes this big like event that pushes forward a lot of story, and especially when you get to the New Jedi Order, there's a lot of stuff that tie into it. But I just thought that as an author, Kevin J. Anderson was always really strong with Star Wars, and he got the Star Wars language and the rhythm. And I don't know, I always had fun with his novels. And then he wrote a series of young adult novels after these that covered, Jaina and Jacen Solo, the twins that Han and Leia had after Return of the Jedi. So that one followed them like when they're coming up in the Jedi Academy, and it was all of that was set up in these books. But yeah, I just thought this was a fun fun series. I mean, it was dark, and it also, I feel like it has a lot of those themes that they just borrow from later on, especially the sequel trilogy with Episode 7 and stuff. I felt there were a lot of Jedi Academy tones in there with there's a character that you get introduced to, right? So let's just say, I'm not going to go through everything, but in the first book, the main book, Jedi Search, you get to see where this is where you see Kessel for the first time, the Spice Mines of Kessel, because Han crash lands there during a mission and is captured, and he's working the Spice Mines, meets a kid there named Kip Duran. Kip Duran, or how you want to pronounce his name. And he meets him in the Spice Mines, and he can't hardly see or whatever, but they're, they bond down there, they escape, and he, I guess he realizes, hey, this kid might have some Force potential, and introduces him to Luke. Luke takes him on as an apprentice, and sure enough, this kid's good, but he's got something dark brewing, and he ends up like creating a big storm. I mean, you had the Starkiller. I felt like that was a good setup for Ben Solo, in the sequel series. Then you had the Starkiller base, right? In these, there was a weapon developed called the Sun Crusher, developed by the same person that developed the Death Star. And that's another thing, is you got to get a little backstory of the Death Star in this series too, where in their twist, and this was pre-canon, or today's canon, pre-Disney, they were pushing it like you had a team of scientists, like all these idea people, and then there were the people that actually executed the building of it and things like that. And then a lot of those people that were executing the ideas were being manipulated into thinking they were doing something good. Like there's this character they introduce named Kui Shu, who claims that she invented the Death Star. What was it? Ray, help me. Was it like to destroy asteroids? Do you remember that? It was like, I just couldn't remember if it was asteroid mining or something like that, but it was supposed to be it was like for the good and development of society or whatever, and they of course twist it into a darker means. I thought that was a pretty interesting thing at the time. Obviously there's a lot more to it, and they retcon a lot of stuff in the old canon to kind of show how there was a lot of manipulation in the creation of the Death Star. But anyways, there was a one-man vehicle sort of situation they create called the Sun Crusher that can destroy an entire system like the Starkiller base can do. So that idea felt like it kind of came from there. But I thought that overall this series was a great trilogy, and Star Wars to me always works great in a trilogy setting. So I don't know. It was a fun ride for me as a kid. I went back and I've read it several times, but then recently went back through it again and just had a good time with it. But to me, it was better than the Heir to the Empire trilogy. But the Heir to the Empire trilogy deserves respect for being the Kickstarter to the whole Star Wars, pre-canon, whatever you want to call it, that whole push. But I just always felt like the Jedi Academy was the one that was closest to my heart.
Yeah, I mean, I could go back and look at the Heir to the Empire series, and it's like, it was good for what it was because it brought Star Wars back into the mainstream. But when you compare it to the Jedi Academy stuff, man, it's like night and day. Even though looking back on it, I don't like the whole Sun Crusher thing.
Well, did it work?
See, I did. I liked it, but it was sort of like, because I liked how it was this. I mean, obviously, you're gonna, your weapons are gonna get more, you're gonna get smaller. Instead of a Death Star, now it's like a Death Ship, but this one has more destruction. So in a way, it was cool. But what was weird about it was indestructible. I don't know if y'all remember that, but you couldn't hardly put a dent in it. I can't remember what armor they used for it, but it was almost indestructible except for the guns on it. You could take the guns out.
But the coolest thing to me about those 3 books was the artwork on the front of the novels. Because it brought back, it was way different than the Thrawn trilogy, the original Heir to the Empire stuff. Those covers were just kind of, The Last Command, had Luke against, who was it?
Jerusalem.
Well, it was, Well, The Last Command it was Mara Jade fighting Luke. It was
it was Mara Jade fighting Luke, and then on the first one you had Joruus.
Yeah, holding like this. But if you go back and look at the Jedi Academy series books, I mean, they look like Star Wars posters.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
see, and this one was really cool because I love how you saw that when the Falcon crashed on Kessel, and I'm
Mhm.
like, oh my God, what happened?
And then
and
Lando
then-
was on one of them. I remember that.
He was on the spine, I think, of that one. If you look, he's
All right,
and it's
so-
and there's the Death Star prototype,
Oh, that's him.
Yeah.
Yep.
and then this second one I like that you see the the Massassi Temple on Yavin.
Yep.
And then what was really cool was this was my favorite was the third book. Just a great, and then you had like the new Jedi,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a Star Destroyer for some reason.
I don't know, man. I think I like the setup more than I'd like the ending.
So there's the.
Yeah, that's
the
Joris
Empire
right there in the
cover.
back on that one.
yeah. That just.
But I think this is the Legend style. I don't think they have the wraparound art, but this copy of Dark Force Rising I have does have that style. Like
That was
Oh, it
my
does,
favorite
yeah,
cover of the
yeah.
series. That one was my favorite cover of the series.
Yeah.
and this one does kind of wrap around.
Do you have
And
the
then
last
yeah,
command?
here's the one. What?
The last command. You have that.
Oh yeah. The shade. This is another Legend style, so it doesn't have the wraparound art, but it does have the cover still with Mara Jade and Luke.
Maybe I'm just misremembering. I could be misremembering. I've got the hardback of Last Command, and I know that it was two people facing off, but it just seemed like it was a lot plainer than that. So I could be just.
It was bigger. I mean, it was probably more present in the big. I've got them on the shelf. I just don't want to turn around and grab them.
I'm too lazy to do that.
I'm lazy.
Yeah, and it's funny. Like, so what's? I mean, well, do we have any more thoughts on the
Well,
Jedi
I was going to
Academy
say
trilogy?
one other thing that I thought was really, I guess, one idea I thought that was really cool was how with the Jedi, Luke had to get not just human Jedi, but he also went with aliens. So you got to really incorporate a lot more. Like you had Wookiee and Mon Calamari Jedi and stuff, and that was at the time you really didn't think about that as much as it really did seem like a human game,
Mhm.
because you just had Luke and Han and the Emperor and all that kind of stuff, but to actually get to see other aliens experience the Force was really, really cool. That was one thing I really dug about the books, and another thing is I just thought that Kevin had a great, and I said this before, but he had a great voice for the series. Just had a, like he.
Yeah, well, I didn't actually read the Jedi Academy trilogy, but I did read what you mentioned earlier, his follow-up series, The Young Jedi Knights.
Yeah, he did the Young Jedi Knight series, and those are great.
I read through all of those in middle school, and then afterwards, a couple of years back, I found out about Second and Charles and Augusta, and that was my main place to find all of it. I refound all I have the entire series in paperback now on my shelf.
Nice.
Yeah.
That is a good place to pick up older books.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right, so are we done with that? Yep.
Are you done, Austin? Are you done, Austin?
You're done? Okay. So mine is a little bit newer, and it was released towards the end, right before Disney took over, and that is Darth Plagueis by James Luceno. Yes.
Luceno is a great one. Like he did one of the other ones that's me and Austin really like dug, because I remember we talked about it tons, and we talked about it recently. Labyrinth of Evil. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, Darth Plagueis to me was the best pre-Disney novel because of the fact that it gave us insight into things that happened in the movie. Like it actually showed us the origin of the Emperor, from Darth Plagueis being his master to Sidious, how he came to power right up to the events of and into the Phantom Menace. This book actually, I think, takes us through the beginning of the Phantom Menace movie. Like it even shows a little part where he and Darth Maul are standing on that building, and he's what's the line? At last, it's time to reveal ourselves to the Jedi.
At last, the Jedi, or at last,
yeah,
we'll have our revenge.
Yeah. So it even goes through there. But I mean, it's just cool to see like Sidious's master, and just to see how the power play between master and apprentice actually works, because it, you know, you at that time you really didn't get that much between Vader and Sidious. To me, you didn't get all the backstabbing kind of stuff, and it could be because Sidious was just so much more powerful, almost. But I mean, the way Sidious just, you know, killed his master, it was kind of cool, and the way it explained a lot of Star Wars, you know, canon kind of stuff in that was in the movie, right? Because I like Star Wars novels to a certain extent, but when they don't go anywhere, there's no real payoff. It's just like everything starts back over at zero at the end of the book.
Like you get back to the status quo. It's
Yeah.
the typical sitcom thing. Everything goes, you know, the Simpsons thing. Everything gets reset to normal
at the end. And this, like, there was no reset to normal. This is like telling a story that actually led up to the Phantom Menace, but it didn't tell the story of like Kitster, you know, like that, you know, you could do whatever you want with Kitster up until he's with Anakin, and you know, it really doesn't matter because it's Kitster. This is like probably the main character, well, not the main character in the first 6 movies, but he's right up there as one of the main characters in the movie. And I just thought it was really good. I like the pace of the book. I like the storytelling in the book. It was just all phenomenal. And you know, and a lot of it too, I do the audiobook thing now. That was one of maybe the like 3rd or 4th Star Wars audiobook I listened to. And it just, the narrator was better than previous things that I had read or listened to. So maybe that played some into it as well. But no, I just thought it was just a fantastic book that had some meaning and some oomph behind it.
No, I remember it doing a really good job, and obviously this is probably why James got to do it, but it tied a lot of threads together, you know, from not only the movies but the books. I mean, they weaved through a lot of different books and tied a lot of things and retconned some things. And I was really impressed by especially by the end. It was even, I mean, it was just going through. I just remember, I remember this scene in this book, or I remember that scene. And it was a really good ride. And you also, for me, it was always that sense of dread because I'm always wondering when the fall is going to come, because it was just such an interesting story to me. You had, you know, the person who trains Sidious, and Sidious is like the most powerful Sith we've ever seen, with how manipulative he was, you know, and it was, I just always wondered, you know, ever since he introduced that story to Anakin and in the, you know, Revenge of the Sith, like who could train that kind of a person, you know, and to take that kind of a fall. And the way the story develops, it's like Plagueis never saw it. He just never saw it coming, because that's how cunning Sidious is. I mean, he was born to be just, I mean, a snake. I mean, he was pure evil incarnate. There was always a motive. Once he got his footing, like once he really understood his power, I felt like, in that book, you see, he completely took control of every situation. And even though the book is supposed to be about Plagueis, it's really, like you said, it's about Sidious. It's a book about the rise of Palpatine.
Well, here's a question, because I haven't read that one either. Sheev, he got his name Sheev in the Disney era, right?
In Disney canon, yeah.
So
I think it was actually introduced in that book.
No, I thought it was Disney canon. Like, not.
I was going to ask you if he had a name. Like, how did the name thing work?
Yeah, where did he get the name Sheev? It was like in a book not too long ago.
See, I thought Sheev was given to him near, like you said, it was. I thought it was in that book, and then Disney bought it over, and then they just canonized it and said, no, it's Sheev. But let me, I'll check.
Stumping.
Let's see. Tarkin.
Tarkin was the first time it was acknowledged.
Yep. In Tarkin.
That's early. That's early Disney.
So that was Disney.
Yeah.
So how did the book handle his name, him, like in terms of, well, was it third person or first person?
It was written from Plagueis's perspective, wasn't it? What? No. God, I can't remember. You know, I've read
What?
this book twice, and I can't remember.
The POV of the book, was it Plagueis or was it Palpatine?
Well, no, it bounced around. I mean, it was because it would follow.
Mhm.
I think it felt like it followed mostly Palpatine once he came into the picture. Like once Plagueis was introduced to him on Naboo,
Mhm.
I felt like it was. I can't remember what function it was, but he saw him. He was young, or it was like
So-
out. It was like out and about. But
So
it
that-
was.
But he was
it
like a
bounced-
teenager.
So that
Yeah, he
so
was a
that,
teenager.
so that
Young.
will bring me to the question I was getting to about the naming stuff. So did this book have its own name for him or anything, or did he kind of beat around the bush and just kind of find clever ways to avoid giving him a first name?
I can't remember. It seemed like he may have referred to him as young Palpatine or something, you know, and just talking to him, you know.
Yeah, I just remembered always calling him Palpatine in the book.
Yeah.
Okay, just Plagueis just calls him boy, come here.
But you know, he treats him like a dog kind of, because he's, you know, master and apprentice, and Sith world is, you know, you treat the other like crap.
And he's I believe this is pre-Disney canon, so
Yeah.
Plagueis was a pawn.
Yeah, one of the money people in
Moon.
A
Mun.
A moon. Oh, okay.
Moon,
No, not
whatever,
Paladin. A moon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, long rectangle.
But yours
head,
close.
real
They're
skinny.
similar. They look
Yeah.
similar because of the long heads and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, that was a great book. And
Yeah, that
close
is,
second was, well, it was probably Kenobi. That was a close second by Jonathan. No, what was it? Something Jackson.
Miller. It's like a three something
John-
Miller.
Is a
something.
Jonathan.
Yeah, Jonathan Miller.
Jackson Miller or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, that was a pretty decent book too.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's who wrote it.
La 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 la.
All right,
He doesn't
so,
come in anymore because people kept shouting.
yeah. So let's move over into the new canon, the Disney canon, and I guess we'll go back. Starting with Ray, your favorite from the new canon.
My favorite is a book called The Leviathan Wakes. It's part of the Expanse series. It is about okay.
He's gonna get fired. He's gonna get fired. He's gonna get fired
Canceled.
today.
You know what?
Canceled.
You know what?
Anyway, my favorite book. My favorite. I was like, time to shine.
Yeah, that one's one that's kind of kicking around because I still haven't given myself enough time to really read some new stuff, but probably one that still has stuck with me very, very strongly has been, strangely enough, Lost Stars.
God, you took mine. Okay, I got to change it up.
Well, we can just kind of both riff on it.
I can change it up. I have more. So
I was not expecting to dig it as much as I did. Like my wife got it. We came across them in Walmart, and this was when they released their first wave of Journey to the Force Awakens books. The stuff to read, kind of to prime yourself for what's coming and get you excited for Star Wars again. I remember we came across it and an interesting cover, and she looked on the back and she kind of dug the premise. So, kind of the whole, like it was promoting star-crossed lover stuff and stuff, very young adult type story. And it doesn't seem like it would be very interesting, but she read it. She loved it to death. And then I decided, it sounds interesting, the plot itself, because it's kind of weaving through the events of the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it, and yeah, it was surprisingly fantastic read. Because the basic premise is these two kids that live on this planet, Jalukan. Is that correct, Ashley?
Something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Thane and oh gosh,
God,
how am I
Thane?
forgetting her name? Have you forgotten her name too?
Yes, Thane and
For some reason, I'm thinking of a C or a K.
Sienna.
Yeah.
Sienna. I could be pronouncing. I might be Sienna. I might be pronouncing it wrong. In my head, I was always Sienna when I was reading.
We'll go with that. Yep.
Yeah. But two kids that both grew up on Jalukan, and it starts with them around Empire Day. She's It's kind of established pretty quick that she's kind of from one of the lower, you know, blue collar families, and he's from a much more wealthier status. And they both become friends, and it's set during Empire Day. So, like, your first scene seeing them is the day Palpatine took power, and then like they meet up with Tarkin. He kind of gives them this little kind of he kind of hangs out with them and gets them kind of starry eyed about the idea of joining the Empire and defending their galaxy. So they both end up joining the Empire. They, you know, a lot of stuff happens. And, you know, one of them, you know, Thane kind of sees the dark side and he realizes I'm with bad people. And Sienna kind of just gets deeper and deeper into it, giving excuses to herself why, you know, why this bad stuff keeps happening, why they keep doing bad stuff. You know, why did they blow up Alderaan? We had to make a statement, you know. And then, you know, she, you know, when the Death Star's blown up, she sees it as like, I lost friends on that place. So many people died. So it's more of it's a give and take in her eyes. There's also the Star Star-Crossed Lover component. And I thought it was a really well done romance story too. You know, it wasn't, I mean, yeah, it had its cheese moments, but I thought it was done in a very kind of nuanced approach. It was, especially out of young adult books, it's one of the better romance stories I've read, but it was fun. It was a really fun story. And the whole climax is the big battle that we kind of got a glimpse of hearing about. Because there was stuff there, you know, was this the first book that kind of hinted at the battle or that showed the battle of,
Battle of Jakku.
I mean, the Battle of Jakku. Yeah. The battle.
Yeah. This is the first you get to see of it. Or, you know, they'd had like the game expansion at the time for Battlefront.
Battlefront 2
It came out for the first Battlefront, I think.
Well, Battlefront 2 featured it because of the whole storyline with Jyn Erso, Jyn Erso.
Right, but remember, it was just like an extra map. All you could do was you were on the planet of Jakku, and there was just wreckage, and there was like you could fly some vehicles around it wasn't it was just a Battle of Jakku expansion package for the first Battlefront. That was one little perspective you got, and then you got this in this book, and it was and this still was only a window into that battle.
Yeah, because you see kind of how at least some of the Star Destroyers end up buried in Jakku. So, you know, I think one of the big ones in the story that crashes is one that I think you see is either one you see in the background, it's confirmed, or it's one of the ones that Rey is actually exploring in the film.
But, yeah, I'm not sure which it is.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a surprisingly fantastic book. It was really, really fun. Claudia Gray kind of made herself a Star Wars name really quick with this one book itself, because it somehow crossed boundaries. Because, you know, being a young adult book, you would think it wouldn't hit as much of the Star Wars audience, but it hit a huge number. I think a surprisingly huge number for one that was classified as a young adult story.
Yeah.
I remember the push, like the wave of, you know, the journey to Star Wars The Force Awakens, and watching that live stream that night, and they were talking about upcoming books, and they interviewed Claudia Gray, and that was my introduction. When they showed that book, dude, that was a thick book, and I just remember that floored me, because it looked like they were holding the goblet of fire up there, and so that was a plus. And
it was well paced. It just and for, you know, a book that thick, I mean, you just fly through it.
Yeah, it was great. I was just surprised, though. I thought for sure it was going to be since they said it was going to be a young adult novel. Yeah. I thought it was going to be a smaller book, but no, it's a thick book. And then they talked to Claudia Gray, and I'm like, I perk up, because I'm like, she had this confidence about her, and the way she talked about Star Wars and talked about, you know, how she, you know, developed the story, but, you know, couldn't give much information away. I just felt like, and it just always settled in the back of my mind. And after reading that book, I thought, like, she's going somewhere. And then she's just been releasing banger after banger, dude. Like, she's really good.
But it's the big but coming up. I'm still waiting on that follow-up.
Yeah, they do need to do a sequel, or let her do a sequel to Lost Stars.
Yeah, I mean, she's said over and over, because I know people have asked her countless times. You know, I think the big thing she keeps saying is Lucasfilm has that era under specific kind of lock, where
It's
I guess
it's opening up though. It's opening
I
up.
hope it is, because she says like she's got ideas of where it will go next. So I would love to see her finally get to follow up on that story, because she leaves a very interesting opening. I would love to see continued.
Yeah, I think they would it would do them a service to let her do a follow up. I bet the sales would be crazy.
Yeah,
That was, like I said, you took my favorite book. But I have another one that I
I'm
will
so
talk about.
sorry. I'm really sorry.
So sorry.
The only bad thing I can say about that book
Mhm.
was, and I think me and Austin actually talked about this in a previous episode of Outer Remedies
think I
podcast a
remember.
long time ago, is the freaking love crap.
I didn't mind it. It was handled in a way where it didn't
It's-
bother me. But I can kind of sometimes I can consider myself a hopeless romantic with stories and stuff. So
No, I'm not talking about the storyline, the star-crossed lover stuff. I'm
Okay.
talking about the parts
Making
with
love, the love.
the quivering lips of the heated pelvis, and I mean, I'm like, come on, really?
I don't think she ever got that visceral with it. I think she kept it
was
pretty
close.
PG-13.
Nah, it was close. It was.
There
close.
was that one love scene at the end, and that was pretty. It wasn't that graphic, but it was pretty close to what I remember him.
I really don't-
describing.
I mean,
It
come
was-
on, we didn't get Game of Thrones here. We didn't.
No,
we-
Oh,
we
no,
don't,
for
but
sure.
I just didn't lie. I didn't care for that, but
No, it
but
was pretty
otherwise
funny. It was
great.
jarring though for like we're all like, "Well, we're back, Star Wars."
Whoa, Star Wars featuring Lando. Okay. Austin, next.
Man, one thing I noticed about like the new canon is that like I like the books, but I haven't had a lot of them that really stuck. They were all like Lost Stars was an obvious one. Like I could have easily went for Lost Stars, but I just felt like it was cheap to go for any Claudia Gray book. They're all great, but none of the books really feel like they have impact. And then when I'm like looking over the series, I felt like the one that and again, I would say just lump it in and say the whole series is great, but I think Aftermath was probably my favorite of the Disney era, because like it or not, I mean, it really set us up for, and you can move the art now.
I'm trying to find
show me
the other.
show me the Chuck Wendig.
Direction, production. No, but no, I really did. I just like, I remember at the beginning, and especially just in the first book, the writing style was kind of abrasive because of like the
He writes in present tense.
at present tense. But what I love about that is how it made each book, all three of them. But it was really toned down in the second two. But the first book, especially, it made it really fast paced, and it was almost like a J.J. Abrams movie, like the first Star Trek movie, where I felt like I didn't catch a breath until the very end, and you're just like, oh my God, we covered just one day. But I just really felt like Aftermath #1 set us up for the, overall, when you look back on everything, it really set us up for the future of Star Wars better than they really handled since. I mean, it set us up for the Mandalorian for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like that story should be used elsewhere. And I thought that's what they were doing, was they were going to set up something for the Mandalorian with it.
Which
But
book?
it was in Aftermath.
No, I was
and-
going to ask like which part of the series did Cobb Vanth get introduced
The
in?
first
in the first book.
It was in the
gonna say
first one.
In the first book, it was in one of the stories. It was like, yeah. So Cobb Vanth is introduced in the book, and it's in the series. I think they kind of keep enhancing the story as the books go. But that was one thing I really dug about the series, was how it went like kind of, not only did it have a central story, and you had like a great core group of characters, and kind of, to me, I thought it was pretty cool that one of them was Snap from Force Awakens, but as a kid.
Yes.
And he had, you had Dr.
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones, excuse
Yeah,
me,
Mr. Bones.
Mr. Bones. I'm thinking of Dr. Teeth from the Muppets.
Muppets.
Mr. Bones from his battle droid protector or whatever. That I just thought that was so cool, and the fact that the leader, this was the first time they were like, all right, we're gonna have like a female driven lead character story, so you follow Nora, and it's kind of like Nora versus there's this Admiral Sloane who not only is the female Imperial that you get for the first time, kind of like a female bad guy in the new canon, but she's also a black female villain. She's not even a villain. She's not. I just kind of, since she's on the Empire, you got to have a good and bad side, but she really is a fleshed out like Imperial character, and you kind of sympathize with her by the end of the book. And even though she's the villain kind of, and then her character gets even better as the series progresses. And by the last book, she's just as good as Nora. They're kind of, tit for tat in terms of like their importance in the whole overarching story. But I just felt like not only that central story, but it would have these offshoots where you would just get these little stories from across the galaxy. What's going on right now? And it would just be like, oh, this is what's happening on Coruscant right now, because as they're pulling down the statue of Palpatine and taking back the city, what's going on? So you get a little window there, or what's happening on Bespin, as the Empire is falling. So you get a window of, there, and then and then you saw Tatooine, and that was like you saw the origin story of how, Cobb Vanth got the Mandalorian armor, got Boba Fett's armor. And I just thought, wow, what a setup. And then it felt like that was never going to be used, or I just thought I was mistaken that they finally paid that off years later with Cobb Vanth and in The Mandalorian. But yeah, I just thought overall, I know that in the first book, people thought that Chuck Wendig's writing style was kind of jarring, but it really, especially after I read it I think I read the first book at least like 3 times, I think.
Really?
Yeah. It's weird. I ended up reading that one 3 times and the other ones twice. But he really does a great job. And I also like how he slowly incorporates other like known expanded universe characters and just, Star Wars characters, how he's kind of sprinkles them in, because in the second one you get Han and Chewie and all that, Leia, you get like mainly Han, and it focuses on Han and Chewie, but I just love how they're still not the center of the story, but they're incorporated into that story, but you're still following that new core group of people. It was just a great, it was a great overall arcing story. And also I think with Aftermath, Empire's End, with Empire's End, Ray, it ties into the Lost Stars Battle of Jakku. You actually get
it does.
Actually, it's probably Battle of Jakku, I think, is the last half of the book. Like you get the first half is, it's an awesome setup, and then by the halfway marker of the book, it's just boom, the Battle of Jakku, and then you ride this huge wave to the finish line, and it's great.
I love how they kind of slowly set up by the time you really get the full picture of Jakku, you get this kind of feeling that Palpatine was a very, very petty man, to the point where basically the idea, the whole idea of Operation Cinders, I know some people apparently hate it, but I find it fits perfectly with his character of how much he loves himself too. Yeah. So to the point where if I die, this empire is going to die with me. Yeah. It's going to go down in flames. Because
that's true. Another thing about this series is, it introduces Operation Cinder.
Yeah, which is basically he destroys. Well, I think he intended to destroy everything like tying to him and the Empire. Yeah. Like I think one thing was he wanted to destroy Naboo, right? His home planet.
Yep.
He wanted to destroy that.
Wipe it. Yep.
Yeah, wipe it out, and then wipe out. I think the whole thing with Jakku was wasn't there a big bomb that was planted in the planet that was going to blow the whole. Or something along the lines of there was going to be some kind of explosion that was going to take out both the Empire and the Rebellion in one single move.
I remember
pretty-
a big hole in the desert somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much like what it was, though. It was like this big grand plan, because then they were going to send, they sent the, like as that happened, you know, you would have the new order, you know, the first order or whatever, the new kids that get sent off to kind of keep the
Start over.
start
remnant,
over and keep the spirit
final order.
alive. Yeah, it was just it was an excellent idea. You
It
take
just makes me think
wipe
about
it clean and start over with kids.
It just makes me think about this the top guys who were still part of the empire that were heading this operation, just looking around, was like knowing the final outcome of the plans, like, are we really the bad guys here? I think we're the bad guys.
I think we're the bad guys.
I really think we might be the bad guys this time, guys.
No, I thought there was a lot of good info in these books.
Oh yeah.
I could not get over the writing style. It
I
was
just
so
couldn't. I don't
jarring.
see how you. I guess it doesn't matter. I don't know how that sort of writing style also translates to audiobook either. But I don't know. I dug it. I really it was a great. It's if I started seeing everybody write this way, it would be kind of frustrating. But I like that this guy.
Yeah.
I've never really seen this before, and it was a fun change. And it didn't, to me, it didn't hurt the story. I mean, I think in the first book, there were a few times where he used some words that I'm like, dude, don't do that again. Like,
I remember
just be
the
floppy.
infamous one. There was an
what was
infamous
it?
one. The TIE fighter went Hercule Jerkily or something
Hercule
like that.
Jerkily, yeah, because
Through the
sometimes
skies.
he would try to be so, like, I could see him I could just see the dude's face like on the keyboard, like, oh, holy. And I'm like, I bet that was probably that first book, and then I bet he got some
Chuck.
notes, and it was just like, okay, all right, maybe not so many wines. I don't know. It's, it does feel like and if you even look, the books, like, they get bigger. I mean, there's a lot.
Oh, yeah.
He explodes with the final two, but yeah, they definitely change. They feel just more like like he grew up a little bit. Like, oh, I gotta make these more professional, you know.
Yeah,
Well, I think also this series, doesn't it also kind of give us a follow up on what happened to Jar Jar Binks in the aftermath?
Great,
Yeah.
great. I thought it was great, but a great Star Warsy, Jar Jar ending. You get a little side story.
It sounded like it from what I remember, because I remember hearing it. I think I read the passage, but it didn't sound like. I'm kind of glad they went that way. It didn't sound like they were being overly cruel to him, like the fans would want them to be. It sounded like he was kind of just forgotten, and I believe he became kind of like a kid's entertainer.
clown. Yeah, like a clown. Or
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
But it was almost like that was, to me, when I read that, it was kind of like
It's also getting symbolic of what he was supposed to be to begin with. Was
right,
like,
and he was
to
always
entertain kids.
Yeah, and he was sort of like, I don't know. It seemed like he was fine with that. It was like I always knew that I'm supposed to. It's almost like I'm supposed to bring joy. So
Well, he's always seemed like a simple character in that, like he could be sad. He could be comfortable without needing to be like Palpatine, like needing all that power. He seems
Right.
like he'll be comfortable. Like how he was found at the beginning of episode 1. Just kind of getting by and having good times. He doesn't need billions of credits. Billions of people listening to his every word.
yeah, it was like I don't need the power. I just want to hear a child's laughter.
He's like Baloo from he's like Baloo from the Jungle Book. You just need the bare necessities, and you enjoy life.
So they did. Yeah, it was definitely a good, like, reflective, look at Jar Jar from the Star Wars universe. But they kind of gave it a realistic, because he was created as a comedic element, like a comedic relief.
Problematic, but the intention
but
wasn't. I don't think the intention was cruel. At least I wouldn't think it would be.
Right. Yeah, it was. I don't think it was either. And just, I just like how they kind of quietly, it was sort of like a quiet sort of, I don't know if I want to say an ending for Jar Jar, but it was a good, like, prologue for him.
Yeah. Or
not prologue, epilogue. A
Yeah.
good bookend and a good epilogue for him to kind of start to say goodbye.
Because it'd be so easy for to just do the fan service thing, just to be as cruel as possible. And I'm not. And I'm
He's
one
like
of
on a
those people that
spit,
didn't. And I'm one of those people that didn't hate the character. Like, even looking back now, he's a little annoying and irritating. but no, I've never gotten the visceral
Me either.
hatred
Me
that
either.
people have. But anyways, so Aftermath. Okay, well, what do you
Yeah.
have, Ashley?
All right, so we're closing out of that. So it came down after
He's like Lost Stars.
after you stole mine.
Sorry,
It came down to two. One was right at the beginning of Disney canon, which was almost, I think, was probably written for the other canon, right? But it was so, you know,
Is it? Was it in that kind of overlap era?
Yeah,
drifting
yeah,
between
so-
one and the other.
so it came at the beginning. The other was recently released, and I'm having trouble going, you know, choosing between them. But I probably, for the same reason I chose,
I'm gonna guess. Let me guess your first one. The one.
Okay.
Let me guess the one that you said was at the beginning.
yes,
Is it Tarkin?
no,
Ah,
not Tarkin, not Tarkin. Not
I thought that one was close enough to the beginning that I thought that would have been in the
Not-
overlap.
close, but not no.
Okay.
It was Dark Disciple,
Oh,
Quinlan Voss, and
That one's definitely great, but it
It-
just almost felt like a cheat because of the fact that it was like, you know,
it's a Clone Wars story, so it
scripts.
didn't really have to worry about having problems with the canon because all I had to do was just stay with the Clone Wars.
But to be honest, though, if when you read it, it's like it has the most going on, like of all the books. It just felt great. Like there were great moments. I think like it felt
Yeah.
like an old pre-Disney book where
Yeah.
stuff was happening and there were consequences.
I really, I guess
Pacing
when I
was like
still
a
have,
movie.
Yeah,
It was like movie pacing.
yeah. I have not read that one. I still want to read it because I love the character of Quinlan. I
it-
definitely
it-
need to read it.
yeah, it is so good. I mean, really, it is so good. But ultimately, I went with the book I'm going to talk about because of the impact it has on canon, just like, you know, the other book. And I'm
So-
not going to talk about too
All
much because I don't want to spoil it for y'all. Oh,
Was that Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, the novelization?
Yes, it was.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
It was my favorite. It was my favorite. Holy
No way, I
crap.
was about to say, Jason, that was the second book. Ray Carson wrote the Rise of Skywalker.
Okay, I don't know why I closed that out. Okay, but that's the book, Star Wars: Shadow of the Sith. I'm not going to go too much into it because I don't want to spoil it. And I
So
know
this is a banger.
Austin's probably still reading it.
I'm about halfway done with it now,
Yeah.
so and I agree. So far, it's a banger.
This one does more to make me want to go back and watch the sequel trilogy than anything. You know, I've listened to podcasts about the sequel trilogy. You know, nothing really does it for me with the sequel trilogy at all anymore. After Rise of Skywalker, I was like, I'm done. And this book has like kind of piqued my interest. Like I do want to go back and watch some of these movies again because the things that happen in this book are, you know, kind of lay out why things happened.
It's informing the
Yeah.
sequels now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And and to me, you know, the book was well written, and knowing Ochi of Bestoon from the comics, you know, that I've been reading, you know, before this, his introduction into here, you know, I mean, it was just a really cool book, and Lando and Luke, two of my favorite Star Wars characters anyway, so they're featured prominently in the book.
So what's some base information about like the plot? Like when does this take place? You know,
This is after Return of the Jedi. I don't know how many years after.
I feel like it's about 10. It's probably about 10 to 15 years after, because it's about 10 years before. It's 10 years before Force Awakens. I think 10 or 15 years. Wait.
No. It's got to be about, I would say, 17 to 20 years before Force Awakens.
I mean,
Or
Rey's
you're right.
5, I
Maybe
think, or
15.
something like
Maybe
that,
15. Maybe 15. You're right.
21 years after the Battle of Yavin. That's when it's set this timeline. Thank you.
So there's so about 10 years. I would say
21.
about 10 because it was about I think they said technically 32 years between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens.
I thought it was 35.
We got to think. I'm going to say one spoiler thing here, but I mean, hopefully it's not going to ruin the book for you.
It's gonna ruin the book.
But Rey is like how old in the book?
I felt like she was 3 to
5?
5. I
Yeah.
thought she was between 3 and 5.
Oh, she appears in this book.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
her and her parents. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh yeah, because of Ochi. Yeah,
yeah.
makes sense.
So And that all that whole storyline is very interesting to me. Like how she ends up on Jakku, how all that stuff plays out. It tells you everything in this book. So
Does it
that's
tell
why-
you what mission? What mission is Luke? Or I mean, you don't have to say it spoiler wise, but at least what's the mission that kind of starts Luke and Lando or whatever? I'm guessing it's the story where Luke and Lando are doing something together.
no, they come together, but
Oh.
it's separate things.
Yeah, well, I was going to say it's not spoilery. I think you could say like
That was
because
like-
Luke,
sounds like a
Luke's
buddy
starting up
cop
the academy.
story.
Well, yeah, I was going to say because Luke started up the academy already and everything, and
Mhm.
Lor Santeca comes to him with some information about some Sith artifact stuff.
So that's how he
starts.
gets connected.
Yeah,
to
it
the
starts
story.
Luke going, kind of gets him away from the academy for a while, because it seems like something's not right. I think you should come check this out and get your look at it. But then Lando also gets some Sith information and seeks Luke out. And then that seems to be, now I don't want to give anything else away, but that kind of is the cataclysm that starts things going. They're like, all right, Luke looks at it like there's obviously something bigger at play here. I have got to see this through. I don't want to say anything else beyond that because there are some pretty crazy stuff, and it involves Exegol. So
Nice.
so it really feels like it starts to tie in. To me, it feels like it's trying to legitimize not only just the sequel trilogy, but the Rise of Skywalker in particular. It's trying to tie that all the stuff that was going on there. It's trying to really give it more depth and more.
Yeah, and why things happened the way they did or didn't, and I won't say anything else about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I did love the cover when I first saw it, so that's on my read list. I've been kind of, in terms of Star Wars stories, I've been kind of really sunk in deep with the High Republic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
I
I
would say once you're done with the High Republic,
Mhm.
that would probably be a good. You'll definitely feel like a return to Star Wars if you read that one after you're done. Because I feel you when I dove into the High Republic, dude. It felt like it was a long time in that world, and it is to me. It's just different. It's just different.
I love it though.
I love it. Yeah,
it's
so
one of the most
immersive.
refreshing takes on Star. I mean, it just. I guess the idea of just jumping into this whole new era where things were not going to crap so fast.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, things went to crap in the story, but I don't know. And something about it's very, very. The Jedi don't feel as unstable at this point, or at least where I am in the story. Like
I will say it was daunting at first jumping into the High Republic because there's so many characters to learn, and you're not sure what and different things are going on in different books at the same time. And but once you kind of get a handle on it, the books start getting better and better and better.
And I'll say
you start figuring out who the main characters too.
Yeah.
You start following the main people for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and also they do a good job, especially in Light of the Jedi, of kind of giving you a fun little crash course in each character. Whereas in it gives you enough to kind of say like, oh, they're cool. Yeah. And then later on when they come back, you can get more invested in them as the story, as it fleshes them out more. Because, like characters like, Elzar Mann, Avar Chris, Stellan Gios. Stellan Gios is one of my favorites. Burry Aga Burry. I'll never get enough of Burry Aga Burry. Just because all of a sudden the name Burry Aga Burry. Burry Aga Burry. Okay.
Okay. And with that.
Well, here's one last quick question. Are there any events from like pre-canon that were just in books that would probably be amazing to see adapted or redone on film?
Oh god.
Is there anything just one pick? Because I was thinking of one thing that comes to mind for me. I don't think they could ever adapt. It'd be really hard to do any kind of just like even with another person, but set up the circumstances was. Do you remember Ganner Rashud's Last Stand? I think that's his name. I think I got his name right. So this is during the Yuuzhan Vong era. And he was a Jedi. I think it was the book Traitor. Do you remember this, Austin?
Yeah, the Matthew Stover book.
Yeah. Oh, that was a Matthew Stover book. Yeah. So yeah, there's a big moment toward the end. He's basically, I think, buying Jason and someone time to escape, and he does.
Yeah, this was an era. This was also I was just going to set Ray up
Yeah.
here. This was during the time when the Jedi were like in a war with the Yuuzhan
Yuuzhan
Vong,
Vong,
and Jason Solo got kidnapped.
Yeah,
He was
and
like
I think that was
kidnapped
his
for a while.
first steps toward the dark side too, wasn't it? That whole
Pretty
ordeal that
much,
he went
or
through.
at least changing his whole perspective on the
His-
Force.
Yeah,
Because he met oh gosh, the Jedi Master. It's like a bird-like master. What was
Yeah.
her name?
I forgot her name too.
It's not. It was similar to. It reminded me of Tenel Ka, that kind of
Yeah.
name. But yeah, anyway, I remember that book being really great.
But yeah, basically what he does is this basically just a full-on army battalion of Yuuzhan Vong, just like thousands of them are coming toward them to try, I guess, to get Jason. It's been so long since I read, but this is the memorable part: is one lone Jedi, Ganner, I showed. He stays there and he holds off this entire army by himself until he finally dies. Like I remember him describing it as almost like it's like a dance of death. He was just going through this. It's basically, you think of 300, but instead it's just one person, not the 300 Spartans, one person holding them back. And he held him back for a long time until he finally gave out. And it was one of those moments where in the pre-canon, it only happened a few times to certain Jedi, which was your body or your consciousness basically becomes one with the Force. And that's why he was able to last so long, was he was basically becoming one with the Force as he was fighting. Yeah, I think it happened to Anakin too, Anakin Solo, when he before he passed away and before he got killed in another book.
I don't know pre-canon if they're, I would love to see them label something called Legends
Mhm.
and just Clone
Adapt
Wars
it
style
still.
animation.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be great.
Go at it.
Yeah.
Go at all of them, in order.
yeah.
And that would be, right up my alley.
That does sound
I would definitely say, because like I would love to see the Darksaber stuff, like that book, because of the fact that it's focused on that super weapon that Hutt developed. It's supposed to look like a lightsaber in space. It's sort of like a Death Star. I don't know. I just would love to see that. And it was a follow up to, it was Kevin J. Anderson. It was sort of a follow up to the Jedi Academy trilogy, but it was just one book.
Mhm.
That, or I would love to see the Shatterpoint made, at least like an animated style. Think of it's pardon my French, but that badass fight, Mace Windu versus Carvaster.
Oh yes,
that would be,
that was
because I
great.
could see somebody.
It was a
like,
brutal fight too. It was brutal.
yeah, I could see somebody
Yeah.
like Jason Momoa or The
Ooh.
Rock or somebody huge, like going up against and having to have Mace Windu go up against him and just lay at
I
the
prefer
smackdown.
Terry Crews.
Yeah, Terry Crews. Yeah, or Terry Crews. That would be great. For some reason I feel like Jason Momoa would kill it.
Oh yeah,
But I don't know. You just got to have somebody that's just. Big. Yeah, Terry Crews would probably.
I'm just
I
thinking
just
about
look at Terry Crews as a teddy bear. That's the only thing is I look at him as so much as a teddy bear. But he looks like he could kill you too.
while he's giving you a big teddy bear smile.
He just pops your head like a grape.
Anyway,
man.
Yeah, it'd be
Uh,
great. It'd be great to see the courtship of Princess Leia animated.
Well, they introduced the Dathomir witches, so that would be
Oh,
it
yeah.
would be cool. Because I still remember there's a scene in there where Luke lops off the head of one of the witches. He was like, I got to defend myself, and I just remember that he's like got his lightsaber and they said he like swipes and lops her head off or something like that.
Is that the book?
I'm
that,
like, yeah,
Did that book also introduce the Hapens?
yeah, yep.
Are they canon, or are they still not canon again now at this
I don't
point?
know if they ever brought the Hapens into the new canon yet. That's what I'm hoping they'll do, because they were
need
great.
to.
Like
Space Amazons, basically.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. Tenel Ka was
Yeah.
such great. Her lightsaber, the Rancor tooth hilt for the
Oh
lightsaber.
yeah, that was a great lightsaber.
That was so cool, man.
That you can now get at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, Disney World, Orlando.
This is not a sponsored comment.
This is a sponsor.
Oh, it was Vergier, by the way, the character
Vergier, yeah,
Vergier that was
yeah.
in that book, because Vergier was also in that book. This is pre-canon. pre-Disney. Oh gosh, Rogue Planet.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
Why am I not seeing it up there? Why is it like hiding from me? Yeah, Rogue Planet. There it is. Greg Bear. But anyway, I thought it was a great book. It's really weird, but yeah, it's all about how they grow ships. And then you find out that the planet where they were growing these ships was visited by the Yuuzhan Vong before, or something like that. And they, because it hints that they're going to come back, and that they had kidnapped Vergier, went with them or something like that. I can't remember, but that was how Vergier got with Yuuzhan Vong, and then Jason ended up getting trained by Vergier, and that changes everything in that series.
Well,
all right,
there we go. Do we want to do hauls real quick? Do we have any hauls to show real quick?
I don't, but if y'all want to show me some, I always love looking at toys.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. I don't have anything.
This is a big one because I finally got this. This came in from the mail, but this is my little buddy BD1. The Lego set.
Watch his head fall off, and he's so
I'll say this one thing is kind of a little bit of drawback is his the joint on his head. It's not one of those like clickety clack ones. It just kind of it goes how it's very loose.
Yeah,
but it's a really well done figure.
Man, that looks great.
Lego set. And also, I even took it out because it's a little hard to take out, but a little stem pack. And you look right here. This opens up. And
stem pack, BD.
Just put it in there, slide it right back in.
And just snap it out.
But yeah, there's that. And I mean, I showed this on that Toy Life, but I've also got this little guy.
Yeah.
Cobb Vanth, Black Series.
I love how you have his head cocked. Like, you talking to me?
Yeah, I had to put him in that kind of Western Sheriff pose.
Sweet.
Yeah.
That's a well done figure too. They did a good job on the face sculpt and everything.
So yeah, that's my haul. I just want to show that.
Sweet. Do you have a haul, Austin?
I have a haul. I have a hallway in my house, but I don't have a haul this week. Yeah.
I have no haul either.
I see a giant Ninja Turtles box. Just say it's Star Wars.
We'll talk about that after. All right. So that's it for this episode of the Outer Rim News Podcast. Hope you enjoyed it. Leave a comment below. Tell us your favorite Star Wars book, pre and post Disney canon.
Remember, smash that like button.
Smash that like button.
Smash it. And
smash burgers.
And if you want to be updated about when we'll do it again, just click that little bell and you'll be notified when we're about to do another episode. Did I do that right, Ashley?
May the force be with you.
He's like, I'll cut around it. I'll cut around it.
You can cut around that. You can cut around it. We're not live.
May the force be with you.
Wait, we're not live, are we?
Peace.